The Marlins get their first win of 2023, their first dub against the Mets. It is the 1st of April. This is not April Fool's, though. The Marlins get the win. Jazz Chisholm, Jorge Soler, home runs, AJ Puck first save, Jesus Luzardo looking like an absolute stud, and the defense plays. Tons to dig into. The Marlins get back to 500 in the 23 season. All on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This, of course, is your daily Marlins podcast. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up on Twitter at Miami Marlins _UK. Make sure you hit me up on there. Of course, the game recaps are back. 60 to 90 to 120-second recaps will be dropping on a daily basis after the Marlins games. Last night, it was an evening game, a late-night game for us over here in the UK. A few too many wines meant that I've just finished watching the game this morning with no spoilers, and boy, oh boy, it was a stunner. Before we get into that, make sure you hit subscribe to the pod. And it is, of course, it's your team every day. And don't forget, there is a YouTube channel. Head on over to there. Hit subscribe as well. It's Locked On Marlins. It's the channel name. Of course it is. This episode is sponsored by our friends over at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. More about those guys later on. But boy, oh boy, I am absolutely hyped. Hyped, pumped. What a win for the Marlins last night. What a dub. First off, and this episode in general, we're going to be just going through the offense, the defense, the bullpen, the starting pitching, and a few other miscellaneous items. Just going through, we're only 2 games in. It's maybe a little bit too soon for some overreaction, let's say. But some themes are emerging, which is nice to see. So we're going to kind of go through them one by one, my immediate reactions. But overall, yesterday's game, the Marlins getting the dub. They were in teal, and they looked fantastic in teal, didn't they? Boy, oh boy, the Marlins, what have they been doing all these years? Why have they diverted away from this color scheme, the color scheme of success? When you think of the Marlins, you think of teal, you think of success. They've gone away, gone into some other different types of jerseys. Listen, their City Connects are sensational, but I must say, like, the Derek Jeter era has brought some corporate-looking jerseys. They're clean, they're fresh, but there's no flair. We need the flair. Those teals absolutely looking sensational. Love it that the Marlins are reintroducing them every Friday home game of the year. Flashback Fridays. Great to see. Anyway, let's get into the action itself. The Marlins getting the win last night, and it was a wonderful game. And it was, in the early parts particularly, Jesus Luzardo absolutely shut down the Mets. The Mets had no answer for Jesus Luzardo. He was absolutely en fuego. On the other side, the Marlins were actually getting some base runners, some traffic, some action going against a lefty. So the Marlins were the ones that were always like pressing the ticket offensively. They got the early home run, Jorge Soler. I'm going to talk about him shortly. But it was the Marlins pushing the offensive ticket. They couldn't quite get some runners across. The Mets couldn't get anything going at all against Jesus Luzardo. He did run into some issues in the 6th. Then the big moment there, Chargois comes out, the fireman. He is in the new, he's the new James Hoyt. Remember back to 2020, whenever there was chaos, whenever something was going wrong, James Hoyt would stroll out of the bullpen and shut that down. Looks like Chargois is going to become that guy, which I love to see. He has got so much versatility, can get out righties and lefties, stuff plays. Really impressed early on with Chargois, and that was a big spot there. The bases were juiced, and there was a big fly over to Jazz Chisholm. So not only were the bases juiced, big fly ball towards Jazz Chisholm in center field, and he gets over there and makes the grab. Big spot there, no doubt about it. Interestingly as well, Dylan Floro ends up getting the 8th inning. AJ Puck comes out for his Marlins debut with a save opportunity. And I think, in all likelihood, we're going to see a ton of that this year. Really are. AJ Puck in that 9th, he just has it's a different type of pitcher to Floro, clearly. And Floro's been fine, but Floro was immense in the eighth a few years back. He's then kind of transitioned into the ninth. The Marlins have been looking for this ninth inning guy, a guy that can strike guys out for certain. And listen, early indications, and my eyeballs are telling me AJ Puck looks like he could be a stud. Gave up the home run. So it was important that Jazz Chisholm was able to add that insurance run. And boy, oh boy, I mean, talk about there's insurance runs, and then there's Jazz Chisholm Jr. insurance runs. Like 420 feet up a deck tank insurance runs. I mean, first hit of the year, first bomba of the year. Love to see it. No stolen bags yet, but the 40-40 tracker is off and running. Yes, sir. Jazz Chisholm with his first bomb of the year. No stolen bags, but those will come for certain. But overall, what a win. And what a way to win, in that everyone had to contribute. It was one of them games. Everyone was contributing. The starting pitching was immense. The defense had to play. The bullpen was needed, was required. They had to put out some fires, and they managed to. And then a couple of blasts from the boys. So great to see. Perfect win. The Marlins go again today, of course. Saturday's game. And Edward Cabrera will be going. This should have been Justin Verlander's start. Justin Verlander going to the IL. Saw this Marlins offense and said, oh boy, I don't want any of that. Shut me down for another couple of weeks. Yes, sir. So the Marlins, I think, are taking on maybe Tyler McGill. I think it is. Not 100% certain who the Mets starter is, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Edward Cabrera. Pressure on Eddie. But I think this one is there clearly with the Mets having to change their rotation. This is clearly an opportunity for the Marlins. And they'll roll into Sunday, potentially, looking to win the series 3-1. I mean, this is a Mets team that won over 100 games last year. Over 100 games for the Mets. I must say, and I put out some things on Twitter, but when I look at the Mets lineup and offense, oh man, I don't know about you guys, but you've got nearly like a $350 million roster there. And I look at the Mets roster and this lineup, and I'm underwhelmed. I am. Yes, Frankie Lindor's a stud, and Pete Alonso can hit some bombs, and Nimmo can run fast to first base after he's had a walk, and Starling Marte's a stud. But I don't know. It just looks a little bit underwhelming. The return on investment for me, visually, doesn't look amazing, but it doesn't really matter. If the Mets go on and win 100 games, then it's job done. Fundamentally, the Mets, they're trying to get into the postseason. Steve Cohen, he's happy to spend whatever he wants to spend. And we'll see how the Mets go this year. But overall, the Marlins are hanging tough with one of the best teams out there from last year. It's a good sign. The Marlins right now remain healthy. There was some, oh boy, I bet Sean Barrett was definitely wincing at least. Garrett Cooper, slide into first base, tag on the fingers from Alonso. Next thing is Coop's down with his fingers thinking, oh no, here we go already. Luckily, though, we came back and actually I think had a hit after that as well. So, good to see that Coop's playing through. But this is the worry, right, with the Marlins and with all these rosters where, an injury or two picked up and it completely changes the complexion of what your lineup would be. What I would say, though, for yesterday's lineup, and then we'll kind of dig into some of the main takeaways, but you got to see Gurriel first time out there. It looks so comfortable at first base, doesn't he? First hit as well. Nicky Fortes was catching. Looks really nice behind the plate. Equally, his at-bats, I think, look good. He got his first hit as well. John Birdie as well, starting at shortstop, looked fine. Big play, first play, pretty much first defensive play of the game. Bang, bang play there. The Marlins, I think, were relatively fortunate on that one, even though the replay system, it's been known to be erratic. But I was watching that thinking, no, it looks safe. But in the end, Birdie gets it done. The Marlins get the out, and they go on to set the tone and get the dub in the end, which is great to see. So let's have our main takeaways. I'm going to cover one of each, I would say. Offensively, defensively, bullpen, starting rotation. Straight after the first ad. And that ad, I've already mentioned them. It's our good friends over at Gametime. And yes, sir, we have some graphics too. Look at this. Look at those graphics. If you are listening to the pod, then this is a reminder. Head on over to YouTube and hit subscribe there. You'll see these graphics too. And it's, this is perfect timing in some ways, Gametime, with the need to get these tickets in for certain. So Gametime themselves, it's a place for last-minute tickets. It's the place for last-minute tickets. Forget planning months in advance. I'm not sure the Marlins sales office will be happy with this ad, but nevertheless, forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Can't say fairer than that. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. You get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. I love that. Don't you hate it when you buy the tickets? You think, okay, my view. What's the view going to be like? How is it going to be? Gametime, you get to see it. You get to see it. You can buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. The tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your emails either. So what have you got to do? Snag the tickets without stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code. You ready for this one now? It's all one word, and it's in caps. Locked on MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked on MLB. $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Wonderful. Going to be needing them today, I think, for this Marlins game. The hype train continues to roll. So, guys, what have we seen? What are the biggest takeaways? In the first 2 games. Yes, it is the smallest of small sample sizes, but I don't care. Offensively, we have to talk about Garrett Cooper. There's a few guys you could talk about, but for me, Cooper Loop has come into the year scorching. Clearly, this is it. I just love to see this from Garrett Cooper. Contract year, Coop, and the first half last year was so impressive. The second half, so unimpressive. Which version of Coop are we going to get? So it's really encouraging for the Marlins that we're starting to get this first half Garrett Cooper again. And, obviously we saw the power in game 1, which was great to see. Big home run in a big spot. But equally, there was a triple yesterday. Okay, Marte definitely misplayed that one, but it goes down as a triple, so we'll take it. And, but Coops definitely started the year hot, which is what we need. And that links to what we've seen with Luis Arias, because I'm going to talk about him defensively. So, but offensively, just to touch on Luis Arias, it's glorious to watch Luis Arias and his at-bats. They're wonderful. And literally every pitch, everything going on with Arias, he's not taking any pitches off. He's always battling, always watching. He's got a stunning eye. And his hands, the way he can get the bat to the ball at the last split second, his hands are immense. He hits all over the show. He'll pull it. He'll go oppo. Doesn't matter. Luis Arias is an absolute stud. Why has no one been talking about Luis Arias all these years? He's an absolute stud, no doubt. But this is the point. In that leadoff spot, Luis Arias is going to be so valuable to this Marlins team. It really is. Gene Segura hitting in the 2 spot. It's not been that impressive thus far. A couple of double plays from him. But Arias is there setting the table. And boy, oh boy, he's going to set this table. So more often than not, Luis Arias is going to be stood on first or second base for Garrett Cooper. And if Coop can stay hot and, have first half Coop from 2022, it's going to be huge for this Marlins offense because this is what they need. Can they produce some runs from the top 3 and then see what they can get from the big boys in the heart? Jazz, Jorge Soler, Avisail Garcia. That's the critical thing for this Marlins lineup, for this team. Offensively, you can see the plan. Arias, get on there. Whoever's in the 2 spot, it's been Mean Gene early on. But those 2 guys, can you get on? Can you get? And it wouldn't shock me to see Birdie in the 2 spot a ton as well when he's playing. And then can Cooper come in and hit the gaps and get the offense going? Really impressive start from Garrett Cooper. As we know, contract year Cooper. I love contract year hitters. In reality, Jorge Soler equally is kind of in a contract year too. And he started hot too. Let's talk about the defense, guys, because there was a lot of pressure coming into this year and a lot of conversation about the defense for the Marlins. And let's be totally honest, it has been, in the main, exceptional. Exceptional. Game 1. I mean, first ball hit to Luis Arias, moves over there, makes the play. I was like, whoa, okay. Luis Arias can play second base. All this hyperbole in advance, he can't play second, and they moved him over to first and blah, blah, blah. No, my eyeballs are telling me Luis Arias, he's an above average second baseman. What's all the fuss? What's all the fuss about? He's a stud. He is an absolute stud. However, it isn't Arias' defense. Well, it is. It's one of the main question marks. You move Jazz to center, you play Arias at second. Can Arias handle the position? He absolutely can. We've ticked that off now. We know that for certain already. Great. What about, though, you getting big plays in big spots from big guys? And who are those guys in game 1? Garrett Cooper. 2 absolute snags at first base. Love to see it. So not only is Coop hitting well, he's also fielding well at first base. We know Gurriel's there as well, and Gurriel is equally impressive at first base. So Garrett Cooper getting the season rolling, making some big plays like I've never seen him make before. It was wonderful to see. Then in last night's game, you then get Jorge Soler with 2 absolutely huge grabs. Jorge Soler playing in right field. He hasn't played in right field for years. Avisail Garcia was shunted over to left field. He hasn't played there for years either. The Marlins, they don't care about the history. Where have you played? In what positions? They don't care. You could be out there at any point in any spot. So for these Marlins guys, defensively, be ready. Be absolutely ready. But Jorge Soler in right field, there was a grab. I think it was Starling Marte with a blast. And Jazz was not getting there at center field. Jorge Soler had to track it, get across, and take one at the wall. And it was a stunning, stunning grab. Then later in the game, in a big moment, big spot, Jorge Soler coming forward, diving forward, another huge grab. Soler with a bomb, another hit, plus 2 amazing grabs in the outfield. All this talk about Jorge Soler DHing all year, not happening. The glove plays out there. Jorge Soler, yes, sir. This is a huge, huge boost for the way the Marlins can construct this roster. Skip spoke about it after the game, where you're going to need the DH spot to cycle the guys. Get Coop off his feet, get Gurriel into first. Everyone's going to be chopping and changing. And so first indications of the defense are it plays. Jazz out there in center, it's going to be a learning curve for certain, but he's willing to throw himself around and try and make things happen. And with that, there's going to come exceptional plays. There's going to be highlight reel moments of Jazz in center field for certain. There's going to be plays and clips where we go, wow, I'm not sure anyone else can do that. And there's maybe going to be some little learning moments as well along the way. Okay, let's talk to you about our good friends over and get our next ad anyway. And this one is brought to you by, and we need some more graphics. Boy, they're doubling up on graphics here, but it's our friends over at FanDuel. So there's those graphics. And the tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Don't miss your shot on a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Okay, last couple of minutes of the episode, guys. Offensively, Coop has been a real bright spot. Defensively, Coop has been a bright spot too, but Jorge Soler, but more generally as a group, the defense is certainly holding and making some huge plays. What about the starting pitching? Well, the walks have been a slight concern, but overall, Sandy's Sandy. We know what Sandy is, but for me, it's like looking at Jesus Luzardo. Can Luzardo step up to be the 2 is the question. He can absolutely step up to be the 2. He is the 2, and he's an absolute stud, no doubt. Got himself into a little bit of a tricky spot in the 6th inning before he exited. But overall, he likes to attack the zone early. I think that's the key thing for the Luzardo. He likes to get that first strike in there, and he does that so well. Once that's in there, he then works off that, which is great to see. And overall, we're going to get Edward Cabrera following it up today in Saturday's game. This Marlins rotation, as we know, is, you've only got to compare it with what the Mets rotation's kind of looking like early doors. I take the Marlins rotation, to be honest with you. The upside is immense. And so starting pitching, I think it's gonna surprise a few. It is. And I'm excited to see Edward Cabrera go as well. It's going to be a big test for him today. Equally, he's had some issues with walks, so it wouldn't shock me if he, has 3+ walks or more, if I could say it correctly. But overall, I'm very excited to see what he can bring. Let's talk about the bullpen as well, just to finish up here. The bullpen, we're uncertain, I would say, in terms of what to expect, who's going to be taking what roles, etc. In the last 2 games, I've seen Dylan Floro up early. I mean, he pitched yesterday and took the 8th inning. And actually, I think it's a great spot for him in the 8th. He was also up pitching, warming up relatively early for game 1 as well. So, a lot of people that play fantasy baseball and are asking the question, who's going to be the Marlins closer? Are they going with a closer? Is it matchups? Is it closer by committee? Etc., etc. Early indications are telling me that Dylan Floro might not be getting a ton of save opportunities here, and he's actually going to be more of a setup guy. And then you get the save opportunity that arrives last night. AJ Puck straight, with the ball, pumping gas. He's got the strikeout stuff, and it makes a ton of sense. The Marlins have been absolutely crying out for this kind of guy for years. For years. They've traded for him. They make the move. They go and, move JJ Bleday, all the control, first-round pick, etc., etc. They go and move him to get Puck. Puck's in there in the 9th. Love to see it. And I think Puck can really grow in the 9th. He has the stuff. He really does to get outs and strikeouts when you need them. And I think that's critical. Overall, I'm intrigued to see the way it plays out, but I'm encouraged what I've seen with Puck. I'm encouraged what I've seen with the bullpen. Chargois looks a real nice piece as well. Tanner Scott. Oh, Tanner Scott. It was Tanner Scott-like, where, a walk, couple of hits, just throwing slider after slider after slider. I just want to see more of a slightly more even split with fastball and slider. I think if he just gets in that groove of just throwing slider after slider, clearly it's a little bit too predictable. And if particularly you then have some control issues around that, then that's going to lead to base runners. And that was the problem in game 1. Just too many walks, too many leadoff walks, too many guys on base. And the Mets, they can punish you with that for certain. So Tanner Scott, it was one outing. And we'll see what that brings. Brazoban, I must say, did a real nice job as well. Got the 2 innings. I think this is the interesting bit, is how the Marlins kind of mix and match guys in those kind of 6th, 7th, 8th inning. Guys that look like they're being asked to maybe pitch multi-innings or come out for 2 innings. So really intrigued to see what the Marlins are going to do with this bullpen. But more generally, I'm encouraged. I'm actually really encouraged, because I feel like the 9th inning, we have a guy in there that can get outs. And, there's going to be some pressure on Puck. He's going to be feeling it. And Dylan Floro is obviously there to help him along and can step in. But for me, Chargois, the fireman, he's kind of looked like he's taken in this James Hoyt role, which I think is really valuable for the Fish. Really valuable to have that guy you can call on in a jam to come and get some outs. And leave then the guys at the back end to do their thing when it comes. Overall, the Marlins, 1 victory, 1 defeat. And it's got, the overall package, the overall assessment for me is it's been encouraging. The offense looks and feels different. And it looks and feels different because you've got Luis Arias at the top, and you've got Jazz Chisholm hitting cleanup, and you've then got Hoy Soler in the 5-hole. The balance feels so much better. It just looks so much better as an offense. We haven't seen Jesus Sanchez yet, which I think is interesting. 2 games in, not one single at-bat, I don't think, for Jesus Sanchez, which is interesting. As we know, the lack of minor league options there has meant that the Marlins were handcuffed with carrying him on the roster. So I'm intrigued to see how much playing time Jesus Sanchez gets. Brian De La Cruz started in game 1, didn't start yesterday against the lefty. So, it's interesting. The mix and match in the outfield is going to be interesting, but I think as Marlins fans, we have to be encouraged. We're going head-to-head, toe-to-toe with a team that won over 100 games last year. And in many ways, in some ways, you could say they've got better. So we'll wait to see on that one. Guys, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Thanks for joining me on a Saturday. And it's happy happy April and April Fools. And I think the Marlins in game 3 of this series against the Mets could certainly make the Mets look like fools. And the Marlins get a victory today and roll into Sunday looking for a 3-1 series victory over the Mets. We'll wait to see how it plays out. Until then, see you soon.